All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another Bible in Brekkie. We're grateful to be back and excited to be able to continue in our conversation in the book of Matthew. So we are continuing in Matthew, and we've had a great conversation so far. So, Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I always reserve this time to drink mate.
Yeah.
Like I was saying last time, I feel like a lot of people that know me either think that I drink mate all the time because all the time they see me, I'm drinking mate. But really, I reserve my mate times for um, moments like this where we have a
Hmm.
conversation and we're
Right.
sharing, right? So,
Right.
um, just a chance to like socialize and be able to speak about different topics, that's really mate time. So,
Mate time.
yeah. So, yeah, I don't really drink it all the time unless I'm like one of those weird days. I'm up at like
Yeah.
4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and I'm like going hard at the Bible or something, and then yeah, I'll pull up some mate and
Yeah.
draw some
Yeah. Yeah.
inspiration, right?
And just go from there.
But yeah, just having some mate right now. It's not in the like too early in the morning. It's 11.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's also like, hey, I didn't just wake up, but I reserved my mate for this time.
Right. Right.
So
But it's mostly, hey, I didn't just wake up, just in case anybody's asking.
yeah, just in case anybody's wondering, any of our church
Church members,
members or
this is not the first time we're asking that.
visitors, this
Yeah,
isn't.
yeah,
I didn't just wake up and roll into this chair, 5 minutes
and,
ago.
it's not, and we don't have these hats on because we haven't combed our hair yet. That's not exactly.
Oh no, no,
It's
I
just
definitely have
it's
this hat
comfort.
on because I have curly hair that can
Right.
get really frizzy, and no, that's for sure. Yeah, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll take that. I mean, I have some frizzy hair, ish.
Oh yeah.
Depends. If I grow it long, then maybe, but
Who
um,
knows, man? Maybe you need to look a little older now, so you might,
I might
you know.
have to do that. Yeah.
No, I'm good, bro. I've been going to the gym actually.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I'm going again today
Nice,
after
nice.
after we're done here. We've been going at midnight. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it's really just like the time of day
Wait, for
that
real, for real?
yeah, for real. That it's available. Sorry, this is my
Yeah, I was
dog's
about to say,
toy.
yes, okay. Yeah, it's like you
This is
gotta
a bottle of
clarify.
wine. This is a bottle of wine that I got from Jerusalem. I'm just kidding.
But it's for
Um,
the dog, it's not for us.
yes, it's the my dog is an alcoholic. That's his
Yeah.
bottle of wine. Um,
Oh my.
his squeaker toy. So you might hear it in the background. Sorry,
Mhm.
but yeah, dude, we've been going at midnight. It's been going well. I know that because I am sore.
Mm.
And yeah, we're going again today. So we started this week going 3 times. Today
Nice.
being the third time.
Nice.
And then on
Nice.
Sundays we play basketball. So I kind of count that. I register that on our Ascent to
On the
Wholeness app.
yeah, yeah.
Make
On
sure I
the,
get those 3 hours in there, and they do all the calculations for you. They're like, "Oh, you must have burned like 9,000 calories." Oh, sure, yeah. Um, they do those rough estimates for
yeah.
you.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, any time of energy, I walk Zoe and Zyla out in the morning, so I put my watch to track the
Outdoor
walking,
walk,
so yeah, a little outdoor walk, make it maybe not a lot of calories, but hey, you start.
bro. I do it too, man. Every morning, every
Right.
night, outdoor walk,
I
Kylo.
can't turn it. Hopefully back. Oh, it's backwards, but yeah, I can't. I can't. There's no way I can turn my arm that way. But whatever. Just a way. But for those listening that work for the conference, yeah, make sure you get your steps and sync them up with your app.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How,
man.
how many points do you got? I started mad late. I start because I forget who is it that
We
emails us
got
about
80
this.
days left. It's
Is it Yasmin?
mm, she might, but there's another
No.
lady with a K, Kathleen, Catherine.
Oh, yes.
Cor- Cor- no,
Oh,
so
let me just check my mail. So,
you
yeah,
probably came for Bible and Brekkie, but we're here just talking.
she she sent me an email. Was like, "Yo, like
You gotta.
you got nothing on this thing. You need to." Oh, Patty is Patty Hoffaker.
Patty, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
She's cool.
Patty's like, yo, she's great. So Patty's like, yo, we don't
By the
have
way,
anything for you. Are you alive? Are you doing stuff?
are you doing any? Yeah,
So I started
good.
super late,
But you don't have
but
a smartwatch?
I do, and I had connected it for last year. I just assumed that it would be
It
just
was just
automatic, but I had to like re-sign into the app and do all
right,
that
and then sync
stuff,
it, and then it just. But
and
did it
it didn't
backtrack
really
it?
it didn't sync that many points, bro.
I
It did
think
like
there's
maybe
like a limit.
2,000 points or something, and I was like,
I think
what?
there's a limit, yeah, of like backtracking. You can only go back like a month or something, but
Oh, I guess then
Mhm.
that makes sense. But
Or two.
so yeah, in like the last, I don't know, 10 days maybe that
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
trying, um,
You got it up to where you
I
at?
got almost I have 7,430 points.
Hey, those are
So
on me,
Nani
bro.
probably has like 8,000. And so,
I don't know if I can. Oh,
a ver, ahora te muestro.
there you go. I got 20,000.
Nice, bro. You're in the raffle for like I don't know what.
I'm in level 2 raffle. I
Look at
got
that.
2 raffle entry tickets.
Boom. Look at me.
Yo, bro. 7,500. Okay. You just need 10,000.
Yeah, you just need 10,000. So
That's not
listen,
bad.
bro, I just need to get my health insurance, man. So how whichever way that comes through,
Yeah.
we'll make it happen.
Yeah. Well, that goes into our conversation really well because Jesus was in the business of healing,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Good job. Well done. I
And
applaud that transition.
and well, one of the sections we'll be covering today is Jesus healing the sick. But we've been going through Matthew 4, and if you didn't hear the beginning of Matthew 4 from last week, we talked about Jesus in the wilderness when he was tested and tempted, and then when he began to preach and the message he began with. And we left off there, and now we continue on, going into the two last sections in chapter 4. So we're going to just read the first one, which is verses 18 to 22. And it says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew, and they were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Makes sense. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. Going from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat, and with their father Zebedee preparing their nets. He told them, and immediately they left the boat, and their father followed. Oh, they left their boat and their father, and followed him. And their father, and yeah, that's the way. I thought I was reading something else, but we'll go up to there right now. Um, so Jesus has just finished his sermon, or not his sermon, but he goes out and he's saying, uh, Matthew says what prophet Isaiah said, right? In the land of Zebulun, land of Naphtali, this way of the sea the way of the sea beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. There's a light that is shining, and it's the same message that John the Baptist had, right? Repent, for the kingdom
Right.
of heaven. Not only is it, it's coming, but now it says has come near. It is very near, right? The nearness that Jesus, like, hey, the kingdom of heaven has literally showed
It's
up to your
here. It's
doorstep.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am here. Yeah, yeah. Um, and so he goes on, and obviously, and we do this right when we came into our churches. Obviously, the first thing you kind of want to do, at least that I did, was kind of understand what you would say the lay of the land, understand the context, where you're going into, right? All right, what type of church is this? Who's who? And then as you
Right.
begin to understand what you're wanting to do, right, you kind of have your dreams and visions, but then you have to adapt it to your setting. Then you begin to form a team, and this is what Jesus is starting to do. He's forming his own team, and the way he goes about it is very interesting. Obviously, there's not a lot of context, and we don't know if maybe they've seen each other again, or see this is like this is the first. Is this the first time that they see each other, or he's already kind of met them before, and then that one time he just comes up and he goes, especially to these two brothers, Peter and Andrew, who Peter plays a prominent role right throughout the early church, and all he says is, "Come follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people." Um, what do you think? Is that the way that we should be asking for team people to join our team?
I mean, I think that, Jesus definitely had, thir 20 plus years, right? Kind
Right.
of getting to know the people that he'd be eventually ministering to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that they kind of knew that he was a great speaker, because it says that verse 17, from that time on, Jesus began to preach, right? So this is an ongoing
Right.
like series, right? Or like in the old days, what they would call like evangelistic crusades, which is a
Mm-hmm.
horrible name, but
Right.
um, so he was preaching this sermon for a while, or at least different renditions of this message, right? That to its core
Mm-hmm.
was repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near,
Yeah. Yeah.
or is here, or is like I'm it.
Yeah.
Um, and so, it's kind of like when you hear of a prominent speaker and you're drawn to that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
It's not the same to say if you were to tell your church, "Oh, Brian's coming to preach," versus if you told your church, I don't know, Ty Gibson or
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
someone else that I don't know many Adventists that are great communicators. So or I don't know who's popular now. Heather Thompson Day is
Heather
coming to
Thompson Day.
speak.
Yeah. That's good.
Um, people will be naturally drawn. And
Mm-hmm.
if Heather or
Yeah.
whoever were to tell them, "Hey, I need some help in my ministry. Let's go. I'm going to change your life."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we'd be pretty drawn to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted to kind of highlight this part where
Where
am
at?
I? Oh, okay. The verse 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, to me, it's kind of interesting, right? And we were making fun saying that I was going to do some eisegesis instead of exegesis here
Yeah.
on this
Yeah.
text, but I just just an idea. Verse 21, going from there, Jesus saw two other brothers,
Mm-hmm.
James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, right? They were in a boat with their father. Why didn't they say with their father? Why with their father Zebedee? Um, you know, and then at the end it's like, okay, and they left their father and followed him.
Mm-hmm.
Why mention the dad's
The
name
name. Yeah.
twice, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to say that their dad must have been a prominent figure within
Good
their
point. Good
small
point.
community,
Mm-hmm.
that people would see the name and recognize the name either for
Mm.
something great or for something really dumb. I don't know. But
Right. Right.
I want to say, since it's mostly like it seems to be, at least as Jesus is walking by, that there's a lot of like fishermen there. It might be like some kind of fishing port dock town thing.
Mm-hmm.
And people knew who Zebedee was. And the fact that the sons of Zebedee were willing to follow Jesus um, says something to the reader,
Yeah. In
that
that
we
in that
don't know
time.
exactly what it says, but it means something, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
what I want to say is like, when I read that, I see if anybody, who had like the um I don't know, the family ties, right, to stay or to do well where they were, or
Mm-hmm.
had the character traits to not be good in ministry, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of those two. It was these brothers,
Yeah.
James and John,
Yeah. Yeah.
which, I don't know if it's this James or if it's James, the brother of Jesus. I don't remember in Acts, whoever is leading the church. I don't remember who it
Mhm.
was, but it was a James.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you can correct me on that.
I think we would say it's Jesus's brother, James,
Okay.
and maybe not
Um,
the disciple James.
and I wonder who writes James, right, in the
Yeah.
Bible, if it's
Right.
this James or if it's the brother of Jesus, James.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Nonetheless, we know John for sure, right, is a prominent figure in Scripture, and dude, these guys were willing to kind of let go of everything
Mhm.
and follow him.
Yeah.
Um, I think that speaks louder than the fact that um, Peter was willing to follow. Not to say that Peter didn't have anything to give. Obviously, we know that Peter must have been married because he had a mother-in-law. Um, but uh, man, like Jesus going after brothers, because it says
Yeah.
here Peter and his brother Andrew, and
Yeah.
then it
Kind of
says
like that
James
family.
and his brother
Mhm.
John.
Mhm.
And I think that what Jesus is focusing on is he wants for his disciples, at least the initial ones, to be able to have a relationship with someone else in the group, a deep
Mhm.
relationship, right?
Mm. Mm.
Where and also a relationship of accountability,
Yeah.
right? Who knows you better than your brother? It's like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't say something that your brother won't be like, "Yeah, no, you're not really like that, man," or "No, you wouldn't really do that." And
Yeah.
so I see that Jesus is doing something great here and inviting families, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Brothers to be part of ministry, but also in a way getting them to be able to keep each other accountable, which is something
Mhm.
that is severely lacking, I think,
Yeah.
in ministry, especially
Accountability.
like
Yeah.
um, the higher you go, the more leeway people
Mhm.
give you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so you know how it is in church. Sometimes it's like, oh, whatever you want, pastor. Oh,
Yeah.
we'll do what
Yeah.
you. But it's like, okay,
Yeah, that's
but I
good.
think
That's
like
good.
there's a sense of accountability that might not
Yeah.
be there, and the reason why that's not there is because there isn't trust, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
underlying thing is trust, and so if you do have trust, that's to some extent you'll be able to speak and hold someone accountable and hold
Mhm.
yourself accountable.
Yeah.
So what Jesus is doing here is he's building a team of, yeah, it may be like a team of rejects, like we know it, but at the same time, it's a team that at least one of them knows the other one truly and
Yeah.
can communicate with
Yeah.
trust and with accountability to the other.
Yeah, man. That's interesting. How I really appreciate you bringing that up. Right, going back to your point of the dad. Why mention Zebedee? Um, and it could be that Matthew, right, is writing there to really. He's obviously, we talked about in the beginning. He's making the case for Jesus as a Messiah, right? And I think, I'm thinking in a legal way now. Obviously, we have a couple legal things going on. You have the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp case, and the other
Yeah.
stuff going on in Atlanta with some of the rappers. And so kind of, kind of like in a witness approach, right? Where, hey, we have all these witnesses to who Jesus is, right? And so not only is
Okay.
James and John that we're following, but go talking with Zebedee, who was there when they were actually called to be disciples, right? Kind of thing. Like he's an eyewitness, and you can go talk with him. So I think it can be a mixture of things, right? He was probably prominent and among the fisherman trade. I think we've talked about The Chosen, right? I probably always ask that question and then we talk about it. But
You tend to bring it up, but I haven't watched it, so I mean, you can tell me if
bro,
you want to
I
tell
would,
me.
if yeah, I'd get on that, man. It's been a great. I've really appreciated the way they've communicated Jesus. Obviously, it's a show of Jesus, a series on Jesus, and he goes to different things. But the way they've played Jesus and his persona, really, I think, has been one of the most faithful interpretations that I believe, right, in my
Mhm.
experience and my understanding, to portray who Jesus could have been like. And these guys, James and John and Peter and Andrew, and they're like, obviously, I was reading that, looking that up too. And I think in Mark they're considered sons of thunder, right? So not
Yeah.
only is it the sons of Zebedee, but really Sons of Thunder, this idea where they're just like it seems like
Maybe their
rough
dad was
dudes.
like a mobster.
It could, and exactly, that could be that he was, Sons of Thunder, either speaking about their dad or just the family, right? These guys were rough fishermen. Maybe they controlled kind of the trade of the town there, and they were, higher up guys. And you have Peter and Andrew, right, where Peter just shares whatever's on his mind, right? Doesn't really think about what he's saying or how to say it. So fishermen didn't really have a lot of education, not super high in the totem pole in terms of the hierarchy of like desired jobs, right? This is a job that, hey, provided, but you weren't really thought of as like, oh, that's what I want to be when I grow up, a fisherman. You know, you wanted to be in the schools, or rabbinical schools, or a teacher. They were the ones that were respected. So it's interesting that the first people that Jesus goes to are these fishermen and two sets of family, which I thought was very interesting that you brought that up, right? Why would you get brothers? I don't think there's any other brothers aside from these two, right? Peter and
Yeah, no,
Andrew,
because then you have like
and
Matthew,
James and John.
Levi, and
Yeah, and then you
Judas.
have like Philip and Nathaniel. I think that were friends, right? Philip goes to call his friend Nathaniel. So these are the two sets of family that probably knew each other since they were fishermen.
Yeah, I'd
Um,
have to check John. I don't know. I think that they are friends, but I might. Let me just check.
what? Oh, who?
Nathaniel.
Oh, Philip. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Check that. But I was saying more of these guys here because they're fishermen. They probably, obviously, they're fishing for the same fish, right? So they're probably in competition at some point. The very great points there, man. My thing is like the fact that it kind of reminds me of when Elijah goes to call Elisha, right? And so Elijah's walking around and he sees Elisha plowing with the oxen and he just throws his mantle on him, which at that point was like this invitation to be my student type of thing. And
Hmm.
Elisha's like, yo, what do let me go tell my parents. And Elijah's like, what do you want? Like, I don't know. There's
Yeah.
probably some sort of
Well,
ritual
it's the same.
conversations
It's the same thing here, though. I feel like you know, one of them. I don't remember which disciple that was. That
oh yeah, they
was
go
like,
into town.
"Oh,
Where
yeah,
are you staying?
I want to follow you," and he's like, "Oh, well, let's go." And he's like, "Oh, wait, but I have to go bury my
Oh,
dad
right,
or
right,
whatever."
right,
And
right,
he's
right.
like, "Nah, the dead
Let them
will,
bury
bury the dead."
themselves.
It's just like, wait, what? Like,
That's pretty
um,
strong. That's pretty
yeah.
strong. Yeah, yeah. Well,
So,
even when Jesus calls the other disciples, according to John, right, where he goes in John chapter 1,
mhm,
um, and who does he call here? So it talks about Andrew and Peter, and so it's told that Andrew, who was following John and saw what John said, he went and he told his brother Peter and said, "Hey, we found the Messiah." And then Philip finds Jesus and then goes to tell Nathaniel.
yeah.
And Nathaniel's under the tree, and they have that situation, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's very interesting, right? That's what I thought of, like, Elijah going to tell Elisha, "Follow me," and literally, verse 20. At once they left their nets and followed him, which to me doesn't really seem like a prudent thing to do, right? I mean, it's like, oh, you're just gonna leave it all there and literally walk, right? It really feels like a moment in what type of in a movie like what's Mockingbird, Hunger Games, right? Where it's like
Mhm.
they're literally doing something. Let's go. It's like we're going somewhere and you're coming. They drop all their weapons or drop whatever and they just follow. They literally leave everything behind.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's interesting imagery there where definitely they did do that and they followed him. But just how like immediate that response was. Um,
Yeah, I think, like,
that's
for them, obviously, we've heard sermons about how, it's their livelihood, it's, like, all they've known, it's their
mhm,
identity, and they're willing to leave that to have something new with Jesus, right?
right.
I think it goes a little bit beyond that. I think that, at least in today's world, especially what we're seeing a lot now with, like, millennials and Gen Zers that are going into the workforce,
Mhm,
um, we're not staying for long, right, at our
right.
jobs, or we're changing our minds about our career. I don't know if you ever had like a regular 9 to 5 growing up, Seba, or your first
Mhm,
job or whatever. Um, and at one point you thought, you're like, wow, this is meaningless. Or like, wow, I'm just
right,
doing
right, right.
this for the money.
Yeah.
There's no uh, reward as far as purpose when it comes to what I'm doing. And I think
Mm,
like a lot of our generation is struggling with that. And
mm,
this just goes to kind of sympathize with that in a way, because these guys are doing their best, are doing what
yeah,
they know
yeah.
to do, are following in their parents' footsteps in doing so, but they are unfulfilled. And I think that part of the acknowledging that sense
That's good.
of
That's good.
feeling not totally, um I'm not gonna say happy, but not totally fulfilled with
Mhm.
what they're doing, allows allows them to accept Jesus so freely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
That's good. That's good.
part of the reason why I feel we have a tough time as people, as humans, right? Whether we're Christian or not, to be able to accept Jesus, because even though we may call ourselves Christians, we still have a hard
Mhm.
time accepting Jesus into certain areas of our life.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
because we're fighting against the sense of no, no, I'm happy. No, no, I feel fulfilled. No, no, I have
Yeah.
purpose,
Yeah. Yeah.
without necessarily going through that moment of introspection and self awareness, self awakening, where we're like, man,
Mhm.
what is the point, right? And typically we wait till we're 40 to ask that question, right? And we end up
Right.
buying a
Right.
motorcycle or something like that. But
That midlife
uh
crisis. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. But um being able to wrestle with that question of existence and
Mm.
purpose,
Mhm.
I think automatically, in some regard, draws you closer to believing, to wanting to be part of something greater than
Mm.
yourself or your life's work,
Yeah.
and and become more engaged in your life's purpose, you know?
Mm.
And so I think like that, and especially
That's
to
good.
young guys, because they're probably in their 20s or younger,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, man, this Jesus, who was a
Mhm.
few years older than them, that spoke so eloquently and with such influence and power, for them was like, "Yo, yes, we want in." Oh, you're saying
Yeah.
that you're gonna use my skills, but for something greater than just fish and money and to survive and to make it through and to pay my taxes? I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, that's good, bro. I do think that I like that parallel with like our generation, right? Because you do see, I talk about it a lot um, in conversations where I believe our generations and maybe generations to go beyond after us as well are more reticent or more ready to leave jobs if they find something that has higher fulfillment
Yeah.
or purpose, right? And
Right.
we've talked about that many times. Hey, it does our loyalty does is not to an organization, to a job title or stuff. If we find something that is better suited for us, our well-being, our emotional health, our family situations. I mean, we have friends that have moved careers to find a better place of work, or to help, find something for their spouse that was better. So it's, and I think that's very good. These were probably young guys that maybe in the same situation were kind of thinking like, yeah, man, we weren't smart enough to be the high ups, and so we're doing this family work, and here comes a guy that is older, that has this passion, and that is using language that we know of, fishermen, and there's this,
Right.
we could be the insider guys, right? We're not the outer guys,
And they weren't educated, but like you
but they're smart.
think about, yeah, because you gotta think about the way that education happened there. It was just one way, really. So you
Yeah,
either
yeah,
memorize it or you're not good at memorizing it,
right,
and
right,
that's it.
right.
And so, like, I think of, for instance, like people that I know that um, um, are working with like mental illnesses,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and extremely smart, extremely good at their trade or something that they're passionate about,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
maybe memorization doesn't come as easy as to others, right? So, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, like for
Mm-hmm.
me, school is easy.
Yeah.
School is easy because the system was made for people like me.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
for others, like my wife, for example, like my mom, for example,
Yep.
um, they don't enjoy school,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it becomes very difficult for them. So, like when I look at the disciples, it's not just like someone who uh, I don't think they were ignorant. I just
Right.
think that they didn't have the only education that was available for the time, which was to memorize
It didn't
scripture and
fit.
become some kind of rabbi.
Mhm.
Um, and they weren't good at that. But I think that when you see like this verb of Jesus seeing something,
Mhm.
typically you see it when it's describing like a kind of penetration that um,
Mm.
Jesus has like insight into like their being, and
Mm.
um You see that often. You see that even like with the people that he's going to heal, and you see that with the people that like the Pharisees and the teachers of the law that came to him, and he
Mhm,
says,
mhm.
and seeing their heart or hearing their heart or knowing what they, um, you see that often with Jesus.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
like in this sense, like I don't know if he was just taking a stroll along the beach and was just like praying or whatever, like,
Right, and he's
dang,
like, "Oh."
I just had a tough time. According to
Yeah,
Matthew, this is what
yeah,
happens next. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh man, I just had a hard time.
"I
I
need
was in
some
the
guys to be
wilderness.
here." Yeah,
I've been
"I need some help."
preaching. Let me take a little retreat. And then he sees these brothers.
Mhm,
Um, and he calls them and they're like all excited, right? And then he sees
mhm.
another pair of brothers and he calls them and they're excited. And so um he doesn't just call them just because they're like, oh, I see that these guys are willing. It's
They have
like,
a yeah.
yeah, he just says that he sees them, right?
Mm,
And I love the way that Luke mentions it. I think it's
mm,
Luke who um who paints this picture of like Jesus being somewhere that's larger, right?
mm,
And within this larger context, Jesus going to somewhere that is like a little bit more defined. And then
mhm.
from there, um, he sees a boat, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
there are many boats on the beach, but he sees a boat. And then from there, he speaks to Peter, and it gets like gradually, like, I don't know, more detailed and like zoomed into the picture.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
feel like that's like the way that Jesus's vision worked, where he
Mm,
would allow for his Father, for God, to push him in a direction, and he would always try to be aware of, okay, what is the next like detailed thing that you want to show me. And
yeah,
so he
yeah.
was there at the beach, he went to the boat, he spoke to Peter, he calls Peter, right?
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
I think that in some regard, and this one doesn't even talk about all the fish, right, that they were fishing.
Right,
Like
right, right, right.
it doesn't say that. I don't know. I want to imagine that maybe that happened afterwards, right?
Right, it could've been a different time, yeah.
They stepped off the boat and Peter was already in on it, and he
Mhm.
asked the other two brothers that probably were the boat that went to help them.
Right,
And
right, right,
so
right.
so I don't know exactly how the story goes, but I think that this aspect of Jesus seeing something is still relevant today.
Mhm.
That obviously we have to do with a little bit more faith. Jesus is not
Right.
physically right in front of us
Walking
telling
in
us
and
like,
saying
"Oh, I see you, Brian.
knocking and
I
saying,
see that you."
"Brian,
Yeah,
leave the sermon notes and let's go."
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
man. That's
yeah, I
good.
hope he never does that. But uh, yeah, I think that in one way or another, um, it's something just so different to their experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Even you mentioning like the sermon notes, I think it's something that pastors like idealize in some regard of
Mm.
saying like, okay, I'm spirit led because I don't have my sermon notes,
Right.
right? And so God is like guiding my words,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
maybe, but that's also our idea of how
Yeah,
God
yeah,
guides. It's
yeah.
not necessarily, you know, just God. And so I think like,
Mhm,
yeah, he definitely
mhm.
works with us, but he works in a way that's just like so different to the way that we would do things. Um, and again, going back, I know I'm
Mhm,
rambling,
mhm.
but
No, you're
going
good,
back
you're
to
good.
the brothers, I want to say that most of us, um, in at least in the religious circles, we want to start something big.
Mm.
And once it succeeds, or once like a lot of people come, or however it is that we measure success, then we want to build a team to be able to do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and that team is largely based on, thinking of the success that you just had,
Mhm,
rather
mhm.
than building a team first, um, and then going forward, right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe making that success happen. And I think like um, that's like our first kind of like where we trip up, is that we
Mhm.
expect people to um, trust other people, but we've only shown them trust
Mm.
in the program.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
good. That's good.
And so I feel like Jesus calling these brothers is also like them being able to trust each other and trust Jesus before he demonstrates the full extent of his power.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that we don't really do that, right? We
Right.
want to show the
Right.
full extent of what we can do, and then afterwards build a team around this success and
Mhm.
try to
Mhm.
kind of purchase people's trust in us through
Yeah.
what we've been good at.
Yeah.
It goes back to this, right? Jesus and relationships and being able to see people. Um, yeah, you're
From
not going to be able to see someone because you've invited them to be a part of something that's already successful or has had previous success. You're going to be able to see
Yeah.
someone when you're starting from scratch.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know?
I love that, man. I love those thoughts. And adding to it too, there's a cool, I think it's interesting, right? What made sense, and you kind of hit on that too, where we talk about the disciples as if they were dumb, right?
Yeah.
Obviously,
Mhm.
they didn't follow the trajectory um, of that the main trajectory they had there. But they were wise guys or smart dudes. Um, could do things that maybe many of the smart people that day couldn't do, right? In terms of mending their nets, knowing how to navigate the seas and the waters and everything
Mhm.
that comes with being a fisherman. Um, and so I think what's interesting though is that the one thing that Jesus looked for here is obviously were people that were kind of outcast, right? You have Matthew, the tax collector, then you have Simon the Zealot, right? Who's actually a revolution. So you have all these characters in your team, but he got people that were willing to learn, a
Mhm.
new way of doing things, right? And maybe people that had less to unlearn. Whereas if you tried to get and it kind of happened with Nicodemus, right? He was a secret follower, but he had a lot that he had to unlearn and relearn of the new way of Jesus, of the way of the kingdom. And these guys that were already kind of jaded by the institution, right? Jesus is like, this is actually how it's supposed to be, and there's a new way of living and doing that. So I think it's interesting. Obviously, they go up. I also see this like I don't want to say childish, but childlike attitude from the disciples, right?
Okay.
So you,
Okay.
you think of like you're at home, right? And if you live close to a friend or something, and your friend came and you're doing chores, right? And a
Yeah.
friend comes and knocks on the door and said, "Hey, can Seba come play?" And your
Uh-huh.
mom's like, "Dale, anda." And you,
Mhm.
whatever you're doing, right? If you were mopping, you're like, "All right," and boom, you head out, and you're like, "I'm gonna go hang out with Brian, who just came," right? And your mom's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, nah, nah. Well, I got," So I kind of see that. I don't know if that's what happened, right? But that I was kind of thinking, they left their nets, and it's kind of the idea of
Mhm.
like, hey, I'll come back to this, right? We'll leave this right now, and we'll just go. They were preparing the nets with their father, and they immediately leave the boat and their father, and they go and follow him, right? So I think it's an interesting. Who knows? Maybe they were obviously we're giving. This could have been, I don't know. Obviously, it's 4 or 5 verses, but it encompasses time, right? That is
Right.
in there. It could have been minutes, hours, more conversations that we don't have access to here. But that attitude, I'm just like, man, that's pretty interesting. Like very childlike, in
Now,
not childish, but childlike in the sense of like willing to just go and let's do it.
let me give you the dark side of
Uh
that
oh.
same example, and it's this. What if in your neighborhood growing up, right, there
Yeah.
was already like 12 previous incidents of child molesters sending a kid to another house and inviting that friend to come play and then took off with the kid, right? I
Very
know
dark.
that sounds
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really dark, horrible. I'm sorry to give that example.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the reason why I give it is because uh, in Jesus's time, right? At least what we study in seminary, and we
Hmm.
know from like Josephus's writings and things like
Hmm.
that.
In the
There were
historical.
already, historically, there were already a large amount of Jeshua's,
Mm-hmm.
who were self-proclaimed, who had gotten thousands of people killed,
Right.
it, Jewish people killed by the Romans because they were trying to mimic what this Messiah-like person would do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a father, another Messiah figure shows up and invites your children
And you're like,
to go and follow him.
mm-hmm.
um, you as an adult already a young adult, um, being willing to immediately let down your nets for some guy who is
You don't even
talking
know
about
much of yeah.
who's preaching a sermon that the last guy who preached it got his head cut off. Um,
That's good.
like
That's
what
good. That's good.
what would push you? I know we talked about
Mhm.
purpose and all that, and that might
Yeah,
have been a
yeah.
driving force. Um, Maybe it's
But the
the driving
context is
force.
important. The context is
Yeah,
important, yeah, 'cause it's Jesus wasn't the only guy that came around saying, "The kingdom of heaven is here, let's go march on Rome,"
right.
which is not what Jesus said, but others came in that manner, yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, maybe you could compare it to, like, for instance, I don't know, you seen the movie Pearl Harbor, right?
Mhm.
Right, and so all the young guys there are excited, like, to go to
Yeah,
war. It's
yeah.
like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to war, we're gonna go fight." The sense of nationalism.
Mhm.
The Jews also have or have had a sense of
Yeah,
nationalism,
yeah.
specifically during these times where they were oppressed, right, by the
Mhm,
Romans,
mhm,
where it was like this was an invitation to go to war with the
mm.
system that was in charge, right,
Yeah,
against
that's good, that's
the
good.
organization that was overseeing them. So in that regard, maybe they were, yeah, let's do this, and there's just so many different things
There's
that
layers, there are a lot of layers, that's
are
good.
into the story that could have happened that obviously we weren't there. We don't really know
Mhm,
exactly the reasons for,
yeah.
but in all these things that play out, you you really see that no matter their reason for following Jesus, which was probably, um, in this sense, maybe you get to hear from them later, like, oh,
Mhm,
like that they thought Jesus was more of a political figure than he really was.
mhm.
Um, you know, the Holy Spirit was still at work,
Yeah,
and those are
yeah.
the people that were receptive. Um, those are the people that Jesus was drawn to ask,
Mhm.
you know. And so I don't know. There's so much of us in life growing, creating relationships, whether we are ministering or creating our own companies or things like
Yeah,
that, where
yeah.
we are put in a place of having to take that step and trust, right?
Mhm.
Where we don't know where it might lead. I'm not saying Jesus didn't know. I don't know if he knew everything
Yeah.
exactly, but um, he had to trust his father, right, in the process.
Yeah, and the spirit to lead, yeah, yeah.
And I wonder if he questioned within himself, like,
Is this the way?
"The these guys?
Yeah,
Okay,"
yeah, yeah.
and I think that part of Christianity, what's so special about it, is the fact that we have this great excuse, right, in the Gospels and throughout Scripture of inviting that average
Mhm.
Joe
Mm.
into a leadership role, or inviting that average Joe into a place where it's like no one has seen them work before or
Do
be
that
good
before.
at,
Right, right.
and be confident in to some degree that the spirit is going to move in such a way to work things out. But you have to be able to see it. Now, if you don't see it and then you still invite that person and they're obviously not a good fit, that I
Yeah.
would say that that's on you. But that's what I struggle with sometimes, Seba, is the fact of how much can we rely on like a spiritual gifts test or interviews
Mhm.
into saying this person is fit for the job
Yeah.
versus someone who is willing to do the job.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I mean, I think they all play a role, right, when you go to that, and I think this is something that Chosen does well. I mean, they kind of fill in the gaps, right? Like I mentioned here, obviously Jesus' ministry was 3.5 years. In our mind, when we read through these stories, it kind of feels like everything was a month long, right? He got the disciples, preached, healed, and then the last week was his crucifixion. So we don't know what all this time. What is he doing for that whole? Was this whole a month process? It seems like it was just he came up to them and spoke. I don't know. The Chosen makes it seem, and that he kind of he came he became he was able to come and at some point meet Peter and his family and his mother-in-law, right? And he had dinner with them a time. Then he goes and meet with James and John. Like, so he calls them, but then he's like also involved in their lives. So it's not just like a figure that's in the caves that the kids go and run
Mhm.
to. And he's like, oh yeah, the guy in the cave. But he's actually showing up to the homes and, having Shabbat dinners with them. Again, we don't really have that information in terms of how
Right.
Jesus, invested. Did
I
he
wanna
did he
say that
go
that
meet?
would be implied through the scripture, right? I wouldn't say
Right,
like, "Oh, chosen says, so it's true." I would
right,
say
right,
like
right,
that's
right,
kind of
right.
implied through the scripture. If he had an authentic relationship with them, then he
Mm-hmm.
really knew them. Like he went to their
Right,
house.
right,
Like he,
right.
um, why would what who, was it Matthew? Matthew's
Mm,
house who hosted the Last Supper?
the Last Supper. Matthew hosted a party after he got called.
Yeah, but
I'm
who
not sure.
was
I
it?
think the
Whose
last. I
house
think
did
it
he
was
go
just a
to?
random house. I think they were like, "Hey,
It
just
wasn't one
go."
of the disciples' like mom's house or something like that.
I don't know. I think it
I
was.
swear these disciples are
Um,
millennials, bro, still living at home with their parents and stuff, and, "Mom, can
I
you
think
cook,
it was.
some
I think he told Randall. He's like, "Yo,
can
go
you
to
heat up some pizza
Jerusalem,
bites for us, Mom?
Mom. Jesus
I'm
is
having
coming over."
Jesus over."
He said, "All right, clean up your room. All right, he's gonna stay in our room, okay, Mom." Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
uh,
it makes it. It's
"We're
that's
going
pretty
upstairs
funny.
now, Mom,
We're going.
okay?
We're going to the other
Don't
room.
bother us." Um, I honestly don't remember who it
That's why there
was.
was no one there to wash their feet because
Yeah,
they closed the door and Mom wasn't allowed to come up.
yeah,
It's
Mom was downstairs, yeah.
boys only,
Because
Mom.
Mom would've done it. Yeah,
Yeah, Mom's like, "Come over here. Let's wash the feet."
yeah,
Now now I picture the disciples as like 12-year-olds,
yeah,
but that I choose, not because of chosen, but I think Jesus, because we don't have, obviously this isn't like a chronological, like, on Monday Jesus called him, on Tuesday he went out to eat, on when, so
mhm,
I would think that Jesus did in the midst of his time. I mean, in other situations we're told that Jesus didn't really have a place to lay his head, right? He kind of does that metaphor as, as the
mhm,
animals say,
mhm,
hey, and we know through different writings that Jesus, even hanging out with Lazarus and Mary and Martha, that he would stay with them often because it was a place where he felt safe and comfortable. He could be himself. So I'm sure he,
yeah,
as they traveled around, he was, Peter was like, "Oh, you can stay with me, man. Stay with me for the weekend, and we'll go from there. That'll be, and then we'll move around." And he kind of, was moving from place to place, house to house, wherever they were housing him. So I would imagine the parents and the families got to know him. And like, to your question, right, the father Zebek, all right, dude, this guy's not that crazy. All right, he's not like the other
yeah,
Jeshua that came by.
right.
But it is
I
interesting to
agree,
see.
yeah,
It's interesting to see, right? You know, and I love that we're doing this, the unpacking, right? Because usually you're just at face value, say God's asking you to. What is God asking you to leave right now? Right? And the reality is, yeah, they could have been that on a Monday morning while they're fishing, right after a long night of fishing, Jesus shows up and says, "Let's go." And they're like, "Oh, we heard about this dude. I heard John the Baptist baptize him. He's the one. Let's go." But then I'm sure Jesus spent more time and came back and said, "Hey, I'm not just a random guy. Like, I am the Messiah, and I'm not just for the disciple. I want your families to know, and I want you guys, because we know as his ministry continues, even though he had the 12, he did have a large number of followers, and 120, and then he got bigger. And even when he was ascending to go to heaven after where everything, there was a big crowd there. So be interesting to I don't know, go to heaven and have a replay of see what his life was like and how these conversations came about. Because like I said, most of the time it's always like immediately, and they never went home. But the reality is
yeah,
his ministry was always in this area here, right?
right,
So they could have just gone home. They probably camped out. We know that situation when he sends them out two by two to different towns, right? But they probably came back, and so right. I like that we're peeling back the different layers on what his leadership style was, right? How did he call his
yeah,
disciples? How did he form his team?
yeah,
But the one thing that for sure know is that he was just with them day in and day out, right? And they're watching him. He's watching them. They're learning together. He's aware of their conversations. And so a lot of energy poured out into these guys that most of the people around them would have been like, they stink, literally. And they stink literally. And I don't know what you saw in them.
right. Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed. So Jesus calls his first couple of disciples and two brothers. And I think there's a point where you mentioned that leadership needs accountability earlier. I
Right.
think there's another lesson, I just wrote it here too, that
Mhm.
leadership also needs community, right? And I think maybe sometimes that bleeds together, but It's hard to be a leader when it's just you. Obviously, you need to have people to lead, but to have people that can support you, right? And you had an interesting point. I hadn't thought about it before, but Jesus comes. This is obviously we're not privy to the exact days and how much time in between these situations, but the last thing that has happened, Jesus has just come out of the wilderness by himself, right? Being
Mhm.
tempted 40 days and 40 nights. The angels come and help him afterwards, but then he goes out and begins to preach and he calls his disciples. And I can't help but think, after you said that idea of the hard situation that he was in, looking for like some community, of like his battle in the garden, right? And he has Peter, James, and John there in Gethsemane, and he's like, guys, just pray for me, right? And so like the idea that leadership needs community, and like you need to have some support, even though he was the Messiah and he was Jesus and all that. It was like, I need to get some people in my team that, as I'm going through these hardships, I know the devil's going to keep attacking. He's going to even use the people in my team to attack me, but I need
Yeah,
people that I know will support me, keep me accountable, but also be some sort of community and pray for me when I need it, which I
right.
think is pretty neat, pretty awesome.
I mean, it just kind of shows you, if Jesus felt like he needed it, why wouldn't you? Right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
um, I guess if you're not Christian and you don't really believe in Jesus, you're like, okay. But
yeah, right, right,
if
right.
you know, we're speaking to a Christian crowd here, I would say like, yeah, that hits home.
Right, right.
Um, it's kind of like that. Nanny was showing me a TikTok about like some guy that everybody's making fun of now, that he's like, starts smacking his camera. He's like, you don't have to do it alone, or something like that. I don't know what the heck he
Yeah,
says,
yeah.
but then everybody's posting like the same thing.
The
It's
same
like,
thing, they're just hitting the
I
camera.
live alone, and so it's just like,
Oh my.
at least here, it honestly, like, it does show like this
Mhm.
need for community.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the same point, right? A genuine community can't really exist without trust. Just like right now,
Yeah, yeah.
we're living like tumultuous times here in the United States, because there's a lack of trust in our government and our government
Mhm.
officials, and the things that are happening there. Um, and so when there's a lack of trust, you don't really have a lot of people moving in the same direction.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's good. That's
so
good.
I think they all could trust Jesus because of who
Mhm,
he was and the prominent figure that he showed to
mhm.
be, but also they needed someone to trust within that group, right?
Yeah,
So they at least had siblings.
yeah. No, that's good, that's good. Um, yeah, I love that trust scene. And I love also, and we'll probably get this into later or in different books, but, um, how Jesus delegates, right? His baptism, the visiting and going out there. He gives power to them for them to heal and to cast out demons. Judas is the treasurer, right? So even a leadership role, right? And we've seen a lot of podcasts come out. You know, the Bruno Mars, the Mars Hill, the, the Mars Hill
All right.
Church, and
Uh-huh.
and different religious leaders come out that they didn't have accountability, they didn't have a strong community, they didn't have people around them that they delegated to, but they just took on all the power and they just had yes people on them and with them. um,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
how
Jesus was a rock star and he had 12 guys constantly with him.
yeah,
So, yeah, you need accountability.
you need accountability. And obviously he was Jesus, and most of the time he was trying to keep the other guys accountable and keep them right. But you need a team there, and so Jesus does model that, which I think is beautiful. But and going to our last section here, verses 23 to 25, and it says, Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about Jesus spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill with various diseases, those suffering severe pain, the demon possessed, those having seizures, and the paralyzed, and he healed them. Large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed him. So, kind of like a recap of, um, yeah, of everything that is going on there, which I thought was pretty interesting. Um, Goes throughout Galilee, teaching in the synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, healing every disease, sickness among people. and people from all over come. Galilee, Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed him. Kind of curious to look at um, area around Galilee. So we've kind of done some uncovering. Just have Decapolis. I don't know if it does. Oh, there you go.
I want to say that. Oh yeah, there we go. Yes, Syria was like another province altogether.
Yeah, right. It would be. Oh, well, I guess they're considering Syria to be here. So as we saw, he's all throughout Galilee,
I
and
guess that makes sense.
he called the people. He called the people here in Sea of Galilee. So I don't know. It didn't say what city we
I'm
were in,
assuming
right?
all that is like would be considered as like Palestine for the
Where
Romans.
did Jesus call?
Because I thought Syria was like further north, like it was like
Yeah, good
but
point.
never mind. Okay.
Maybe at that point, who knows, man? I mean, and you know, some of the maps sometimes people are. Oh,
Yeah, but I guess that makes sense. I mean,
look at this. This is pretty cool. Look, we'll be seeing this. Where in literally, really around the Sea of Galilee. And so it's interesting, right? Obviously, he's moving around Galilee and all these areas, and then capital of Antipas, he calls him the fox. Woe to you, drowning of the swine. The hip is here. I think that was
that's a
in.
cool map.
This is pretty cool, yeah. And then you have the area there. I wonder if that one. But this is kind of here, right? So he's really going around. You have people from Decapolis, which
Mm-hmm.
these people you wouldn't. Is it right? Am I right? They wouldn't want to go through here, so they would go out of the way to not go. Is it not the Decapolis? Where was it when they would want to not go through where the Samaritans, in Samaria, I believe. But not going through where the Samaritans lived, where the Gentiles lived, and so they would go and go extremely away. And so Jesus is just operating here around the Sea of Galilee. And so it's not too, I mean, it looks like a big area. Let me see if I can, there's no map to see, but yeah, pretty interesting to see Jesus is where he was working from. Yeah. Any thoughts here on this? Feels more just like a, hey, just so you know, this is what happened.
Yeah, so I mean, he wasn't like preaching anywhere weird. Like he wasn't like pitching a tent and saying like, "Oh, here's tent meeting. We're gonna I'm doing
Yeah.
an evangelistic series." No, he was
Yeah.
preaching where everyone else spoke. You know, he was probably getting invited to places like, "Hey, you know, I hear you teach a good word. Come on down." Um, it doesn't seem like he was doing something weird, you know, or like
Right.
out of the
Right.
ordinary. Um, the out of the ordinary part was like maybe after he was done speaking, he was healing people. Um, you know, and yeah, when you're able to do that, news spreads really quickly. You
Yeah.
know, it apparently spread all over. So people were just like hoping to catch him in his next gig, right?
Yep. Yep.
To
To
be
see if they
healed.
could, yeah.
But it shows like their weaknesses, their diseases, their pain is what brought them to Jesus,
Hmm.
not perhaps not necessarily his what he was preaching,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Oh,
know.
that's good.
And I think that in some regard we all can benefit from the presence of Jesus, whether you believe in his message or not. He's willing to um, bring about a change in you that
Hmm.
is better for you.
Hmm.
Whether in the end you choose to believe him or believe in him, I think that God is always willing to
Yeah.
um, release you of your burdens, of your
Hmm.
pain,
Hmm.
of what is stressing you.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Um, no matter if you're a disciple or just part of a large crowd. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
so I think
That's
that's really
beautiful.
cool.
Yeah, willing to just give what he has to anybody. Where many times you see in leaders, right? They'll give the most to the inside crew, right? To his 12 or the three. You know, the intimate people get more, and obviously in some of the parables and interpretations did. But in terms of healing and freeing from pain and diseases, demon possession,
In terms of
and
needs, he gives
in terms
everybody
of
like what they
yeah,
need,
that's
right?
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Um, but I think the 12 really just like wanted. It was more than just healing, right?
Yeah, they needed. Yeah, dude, I found this and I thought this was pretty interesting. I don't know how realistic this is, but just because my question was like, I'm looking at this and how much of is this space, right? How big is that space? And so supposedly you can fit Israel's eight in Florida 8 times. So just to imagine, this is kind of and I'm up here, you're down here, obviously, um, but that kind of gives me a visual, like, okay, oh, okay, for me, from to drive from here to Tampa is about 2.5 hours. So that distance they're driving. So it'd be interesting to see, right, how much Jesus moved around, and yeah, very fascinating. Just a little thought there. Just a little thought there of Jesus's ministry. But we're seeing that Jesus already he went from being really no one on the scene to breaking into the scene, and a lot of people following. He's beginning to get his disciples. They're following, and now we have word that people from all over the area are coming because he is meeting their needs. And obviously, like you said, Brian, this is not the first time that a guy pops into the scene trying with a message of revolution, of new things. This guy, I think already people are starting to notice, is a little different. He has some powers that maybe other people did not have. As well as now that people are following him, we'll go into chapter 5 next time, which begins kind of what is his political, if you want to say political platform, right? His campaign, right? What is his kingdom all about? And this
Yeah.
is what will be shared, right? As people are coming and say, oh, this is a new guy in town. He's doing all these things. What does he believe in? What's his goal? What's his agenda? And Jesus will share that in the next chapter. So
In the
pretty
next
cool
chapters,
stuff.
right? Because it's like
Hmm.
chapters 5 and 6
Yeah. And
are,
seven, and
you know,
seven too.
and
Six,
7. Yeah.
5, 6, 7,
So,
yeah.
oh man,
It's gonna
it's
be
gonna
good.
be good. It's gonna be good.
It's
It's
gonna
gonna
be
be
good.
good.
It's gonna be good. All right, going into our lightning round for today, talking on some familiar stuff. We have NBA playoffs. Brian, I don't know how you've been keeping up.
I have not been keeping up. The last,
Well, your Heat won yesterday. They
how,
beat
where are they in
they
the series? These are the semifinals, right?
yeah, they're going to the conference finals now. They just beat the Sixers last night. And so they will be going into, let me
Maybe I
see.
should have watched that.
Yeah, they're going into, let me see, updated. This is old. Yeah, so they beat the Sixers yesterday.
Hmm.
And so they are going now to the winner of the Milwaukee Bucks and oh, here we go. I can share this now. So the winner of the whoever wins from the Bucks and Boston. So Milwaukee came back and won last game. They were down by like 15 or 10 to 15 and they won. And so Milwaukee's up 3-2. So today they can beat Boston to advance and then Golden State is up 3-2. They got blown out by like 50 points. Which is ridiculous. Without Memphis's top player. And then these guys tied it last night, so they're going to game 7. So
Who tied it last night? Dallas or Phoenix?
uh Dallas did. Oops. Yeah, Dallas tied it last night. Phoenix didn't really show up to play. Golden State could have won last time because it was 3-1, and they lost by 50 points, 40 points. It was crazy. Está arreglado todo. Everything is paid off, man. That's
Well,
what
I
everyone's
hope the
saying.
Phoenix. I hope the Suns make it
You want
out
Suns?
of there. And I don't really care about Golden State or Memphis, so
Yeah.
whoever doesn't matter. I want to see Miami Boston for the conference
Ooh.
finals. Um, But I think slowly that's becoming like a thing here in the East.
Hmm.
Boston, Miami.
Boston, my rivalry. Yeah, who
Yeah.
knows? I mean, Boston was playing really good. They lost that game, and so now they gotta play one more, win another to survive. But
Hmm.
obviously, Milwaukee's the defending champ,
Yeah.
so we'll
So
see,
that
man.
that'd be nice. It would be nice. Because any matchup there, it would be relatively
Yeah.
close. I mean, the fact that in the conference series, the top four teams made it to the top four places, kind of
Hmm.
says like, yeah, they're
They were good.
they're well matched. Same thing on the other side, the
Yeah,
top four
yeah. One,
teams
four,
made it to the
two, three.
top
Yeah,
four
one, two, three,
places.
four. Yeah. Oh, that's
So
a good
so
point.
this is like the first time there's not really been too many upsets here, It's
Yeah.
been like
Right. Right. Right.
really the best teams are moving forward.
Hmm. Hmm. So you'll
So
see
that's
here.
nice.
Yeah. I mean, Phoenix has been the best team, the best record in the NBA, and so you would expect them, but this has been a tough. And it's
It,
interesting, right? It's kind of
yeah.
like soccer. It's all about matchups, right? So where if Atlanta would have played a different team, they probably could have won in advance. But Miami really matched up well, and you know, Philadelphia just didn't have the firepower. But so it's interesting to see the matchups. And sometimes if you would have gotten with someone else, you're like, oh, we would have beat them, but this team is a little tougher. So
Yeah. Well,
um,
I'm sure that that's what other teams thought about. All the teams that lost probably thought that about some
right,
other
right,
matchup.
yeah, yeah,
But I would say like it'd be really interesting if at the end of the day you have Heat versus Phoenix, right, coming out of
hmm,
it, or that the conference finals be like Miami, Boston because they're the top two, or
yeah, yeah,
Phoenix,
yeah,
Memphis because they're the top two, and
right.
then it'll kind of just show the fact like, oh, dude, like people are getting somewhere based on their merits from the
The regular
season,
season.
not
Yep.
just like, oh, we just show up to play in the playoffs. Um,
No,
that'd be
that's
kind of
good.
cool to see.
That's good. Very good. Now we move on to our Champions League final. Oh man.
I don't know. I guess I want Liverpool to win just because I'm a Madrid hater.
Yeah.
Um,
But again, I told everyone in the last couple of weeks, I will not be surprised if Madrid wins. Simply
yeah,
because they just find a I don't know what it is this year. I don't know what kind of fire they have, but I am not like last game too. I was telling people and they're like, oh, they're up. I was like, bro, I'm not surprised if they win somehow. Which I thought last game was done. Like they were meant. City was up. It was in the stoppage time. Ah, they're not gonna score 2 goals. No way.
I know it wasn't done, bro. Honestly,
You felt
like,
it?
um, I didn't feel it. I just thought that they would at least score once, and I was afraid that they would score once because once they score, then the
It's like this
stadium wakes
energy.
up, you know.
Yes. Yep.
But that's why I dislike about Madrid fans, bro. They're all quiet the whole game when they're losing, and then all of a
Until
sudden it's like, oh, okay, oh, our team has a chance, and then it's like, why weren't you chanting the whole time?
the
Like, are
whole
you a
time.
fan, or you're only a fan like when you guys win? So
Right,
it,
right, right.
it really like that for me. That's upsetting. Like I prefer like yeah, and Courtois is waking up, bro. Because honestly, for the
He's
first like
playing
5 years that he's been playing, he's sucked
he's
terribly. So
yeah, but he's actually making I mean, he had some key stops. I mean, if what's his face, if Grealish would have scored the 2 goals he had, that's a
that's another
different
one,
story.
bro. That's
That's a
another one.
different
So it's just
story.
like he had two to put it to bed, bro.
2.
One would have put it to
One
bed.
for sure, the one that was, a good stop by keeper, um but then, bro, you look at Luis Diaz in Liverpool, and he's been playing pretty good.
Yeah, but as soon as you put a
He's
body on Diaz,
I mean, yeah,
that's
he's
it.
he's not but, I mean, I'm surprised, because I feel like he's made more of an impact. Maybe they were really missing that component. Mo Salah's not doing or Sané what but he kinda creates I mean, when they put him in versus Villarreal with who they put Henderson in, I mean, he was just brought a whole whole 'nother dimension. His speed, at least just having speed, it's kinda like Mbappe, right? Just having that speed really
Yeah,
makes
to
the
me that
defender.
was crazy. The
That was
fact
kind of
that they were
Vinicius.
2 down and then 1-3-2 out. Obviously, I was upset because I was going for the underdog, but um, I think that it just kind of shows you that these two teams are
Different
in it
category.
until the end. You
Yeah.
can't like write either of them off.
And you
Um,
can't play just one half, right? Even though Man City won the whole 90 minutes, and it was just after the 90 that they just gave it. And but yeah, again, I would not be. I have money on Liverpool winning, but at this point, the tres remontadas of Real Madrid, I think they come in. They're gonna play and be like, oh, in the last, we'll just in the five, we whenever, even if there's a minute left, we think we can win. And
yeah, I think the difference is they're not playing at Bernabeu.
oh, you're right, they're playing players. That changes it. Wait,
Um,
did all the comebacks play? Were they all in Bernabeu?
I believe so. I may be mistaken. Do your research real quick. The last three games. Um, I believe so.
League Two. No, yeah, the first one, the 3-1 of PSG was in Santiago Bernabeu, and then Chelsea. We do know that. Let's see, Chelsea the aggregate 5-4. Bernabeu. Yep.
Yep. So they're not
That's it.
playing there this time.
But I mean, they had already won 3-1 in Chelsea in the beginning, so that one was I think because they lost 2-3 at home, but they passed in 5-4 aggregate. Yeah, that's a good point. That
Yeah, but at one point they were losing. You know.
oh yeah, in no, the whole
So
time they came in 3-1, and then these guys scored three, so it was 4-3, and they scored in the 80th and 96th minute to win it. Again, same thing.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
PSG,
It's just kind of like
what's up?
it's interesting.
2-0.
I I honestly want them to make it this far to lose
Oh, Madrid?
the final. Just like you did all that, you talk so much trash.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's funny.
you you over um estimated the worth of your players because of like
Mhm.
some mediocre defending, and I want you to lose.
Satisfaction. The
But yeah, I
satisfaction.
don't know. That's my I hope Liverpool wins. I don't like Liverpool, but I hope
Yeah.
Liverpool wins.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of either, so that'll be very interesting. But
I'm a bigger fan of Barcelona, so
yeah, yeah, me too.
I hope Liverpool wins.
I'm upset because they're both. Liverpool knocked us out on the year that we probably would have won if we would have advanced,
Oh yeah, we
and
were definitely one.
we were
I
winning that one, that Champions League,
again, that is
that
poor
comeback.
defending.
Yeah,
At least on that last goal, the 4-0, that was
the
really
quick the
bad.
quick cross.
It's like, bro, stay in the game.
Yeah.
Not just that, like all the goals that they missed at Camp Nou. Let's not
Hmm.
go back there. Anyway,
Yeah, I was about to look up the video, and I'm like, I don't want to. I'm about to cry. I don't want to do that.
I mean, the fact
But
that Messi's screaming at you in your face for not taking a shot is like
Mbappe,
he
yeah,
never
for
talks. He
yeah,
never talks. So it's like
when
that's a big deal.
Dembele missed that shot.
Dembele missed that shot when Vidal, who was in front of the keeper instead of shooting it, decided to pass it. Um, you know,
Right.
it's just a lot of things. You know that if you would have gone into that game, I don't know, 5-6-0 up, it's a sealed deal.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that Barcelona is missing like a I don't know. I think they played all their cards wrong.
In terms of Messi.
In terms of Messi, in terms of like just like the team in general, I think that they needed a manager a um, with more character, more spice
Yeah.
than one that was strategically correct
Hmm.
for this time. So they needed more of like a Luis Enrique than a Xavi,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I'm looking at highlights, bro. It's not good.
Yeah. Is there something else in the lightning round aside from Champions League and
No,
NBA?
these are the last ones.
Yeah.
Oh, I see which one you mean about when he didn't pass. He didn't shoot it. He passed it instead of trying to shoot versus
Yeah.
Liverpool.
Yeah. Does it show Messi screaming at him?
All right, I don't know.
Lo retó, bro.
It says Messi regaña. Yeah, you can't really see it, but it was just a bad. He wasn't even. He was like he hit it in the air. Like he wasn't planted. You see his feet was just. I don't know a dónde lo
Where
mandó.
where is the you see the
Let me see Messi's face.
there we go. Ahí está.
Yeah, bro, because he had. I mean, when he got it initially, right there. If you
Yeah,
hit it
look
from
at
once, he still had another shot with the
Mhm.
bring it to your right and just go straight to the
You can shoot with your left or hit it with your right, man. Whatever,
de
you know.
una
Just
right
like
there, boom, or just you have one more and then just bring it more to the right
y-
because you had space to run.
yeah, and even if the goalkeeper at that range isn't gonna be able to hold on to the ball unless you shoot it right at his chest.
Yeah,
Um, and so
it
the
was a
rebound,
bad.
you have a couple guys there, you know.
Yeah, he was.
He was having it, bro.
He's like, dude,
Yeah.
what
Whoa,
is?
Chan, what's up, dude?
Oh, you saw this? This is a video from way back when. We'll finish here when we were recording something during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's Zoe. Let's see her just coming.
Oh.
In the middle of the recording.
He's like, Mom, you're not sounding too good. Here, let me help
Can
you
you
out. Let me help you out.
stop singing, stop? And she
Yeah.
licks the mic. Like, come
He's
on,
like,
man.
this thing
Everything.
needs to shut up. Like, how do I turn this off?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, she's just a
That's so.
big fan. She's just a big
She
fan.
is, man. She's like, oh my god. She broke through the lines of security and just came in and just.
Yeah.
Déjame dar un beso. Oh man. Well, thank you guys for joining us in our conversation, in our rabbit holes too of conversation.
Yeah.
Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next